Well, good afternoon, fellow constitutionalists, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Dan Clements Show, a Christian political talk show. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior fighting for your right just to be an American. It is November 8th in the year of the Lord 2017. Remember, we're hyphen-free, PC-free zone. God is still in control, and He does love you. And I'm broadcasting live from the Hemlock Studios here in the chilly, frosty Central Susquehanna Valley in the great Keystone State. Good afternoon, folks. How are you all doing? As you know, if you're not living under a rock, yesterday was election day. In most states, a lot of local elections, a lot of local issues were decided yesterday. We're not going to get into a lot of those. Hopefully, if you're a politico like me, that you're not coming to me for all those local things. Hopefully, you can take care of them yourself. There's some local things decided here in Pennsylvania, but nothing really major in the state of Pennsylvania. Anyway. The two races that I really want to focus on are the gubernatorial races in New Jersey and Virginia, which were both won by Democrats. And we're going to break this down a little bit. I'm not going to get into the analysis why the one won and why the one lost. I mean, I'll leave that over to the pundits and the talking heads. Suffice it to say, especially Gillespie in Virginia, and to a certain extent, and honestly, I didn't even look up who it was in New Jersey that lost. But anyway, neither one of them supported Donald Trump. I think the New Jersey Republican candidate did a little bit more than Gillespie, but Gillespie wanted nothing to do with Donald Trump. And guess what? He lost. And he lost by 9 percentage points. And this, folks, I honestly believed throughout the whole election, and I didn't say a whole lot about the Virginia election, but Mr. Gillespie was part of the establishment. And he was one of these contrarians who, if he went against Trump, now this is what I think he was thinking. If I went against Trump, I would be able to pick up these independent and moderate voters that tend to lean center-right. But the problem is with that, and I do listen to the Glenn Beck show every now and then when I'm doing post and pre-show prep. And it was amazing to me how he came up with and I've been talked about not every day, but I talked about this a while ago about, the center of politics, the right there in the center where the moderates and the greatly vaunted independents, that there's some type of group out there that they're independent, they're not part of any political party, so therefore, it's sort of almost like virtue signaling that you claim to be a moderate or independent. And I've always been of the opinion that those in the middle, the moderates and the independents, are the folks that really don't stand for anything. They go where the wind blows. And they don't stand on any principles. They don't stand on any platforms. We're going to be talking about some of the I keep forgetting names. Phil Murphy was New Jersey, and Ralph Northam was the Virginia governor-elect. Both Democrats. We're going to talk about some of their policy, their planks, their platforms. And I skimmed over them this morning. And it was just as I feared. And it's just, they are both very progressive. They literally were going for, on the fringe anyway, of their platforms, they were going for that very militant progressive vote. And matter of fact, Let America Vote, the George Soros funded operation, said that they knocked 194,000 doors in Virginia for the Democrats, and they were active up in New Jersey, although I couldn't find the numbers right off the, they weren't touting the numbers up in New Jersey like they were in Virginia. Most Democrats, progressives, liberals, far leftists were really looking more at Virginia as being the standard here, or the bellwether mark of electoral elections. Now they're actually some of them are very jubilant about the win in Virginia, saying this is signaling the end of Donald Trump's presidency and far-right politics. And we'll stick with Virginia here for a second. If Ed Gillespie, the Republican, I believe that was his name, Gillespie's his last name, he didn't want anything to do with Donald Trump. He did not want Donald Trump campaigning for him, and so Donald Trump didn't campaign for him. So how can you say, and again, this is something that just rubs me the wrong way with progressives and liberals out there, especially in these George Soros groups. How can you say that this is a pronouncement against Donald Trump when Donald Trump wasn't even invited by the Republican candidate to help him win? And I entitled the show today, and this is something I was looking at last night after some of the results, and especially this morning, on like Let America Vote and Indivisible Group and Common Cause. I entitled the show, "If You Win by Deception, Is It Still a Win?" Now, Let America Vote, Indivisible Guide, and Common Cause has for months in these two states, New Jersey, and to a lesser extent, not New Jersey, Virginia, and to a lesser extent, New Jersey, they have been pounding on a national level how Donald Trump and the GOP's tax plan is a scam. But they never explain how it's a scam with facts and truth. They are using lies. They're using debunked data. They're using a debunked narrative to savage the tax reform. The Republican, the GOP, President Trump's tax reform bill. Okay? And matter of fact, the funny thing about this is, for years, decades, Democrats, liberals, progressives have been screaming about the loopholes that are in the tax code. So what does the tax plan do? It takes out a lot of these tax codes, a lot of these tax loopholes. And if you sit down with even a dull pencil and actually figure these things out, a lot of these loopholes they say that's going to destroy the middle class. Actually, if you get rid of those and do the $14,000 for a single person and $24,000 for a married couple, that is far and away more of a tax savings on them than any homeowners interest tax deduction and stuff like that. A lot of those type deductions there only benefit the special interest groups that they're actually fighting for these loopholes, like realtors and home builders. I've been doing some research on this, and they benefit greatly from the artificially government enhanced prices of homes. How when the government gets its hands into anything, it drives the cost up, because they know this money is going to automatically come from the government through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, these low interest loans that are backed by these quasi-government agencies, and so they can afford to have their groups that they represent jack up the prices because they know the government's going to stand good for it, i.e. the taxpayers are going to be put on the hook for it. And I got friends that are realtors. I didn't really talk to them yet about this, what they think about this. However, I just looking at it myself, it's a bad deal to try to keep those in place. So let's get them out of the way and get some real tax relief and get rid of some of these loopholes. But this is what the narrative has been about taxes in these two states. It's like I said, it's a deceptive narrative that doesn't give you the facts, actually uses debunked facts, and I don't know if that's an actual, I don't know if that's an oxymoron or not, where they're debunked facts. But the narrative that they are using has been debunked for years economically. Okay? Same way with voting. We're going to talk a little bit about voting rights here. And I'm telling you, some of the things these progressives want, same-day registration voting. They want auto voting, auto register. When you get your driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. Citizenship should take some effort on the part of the citizen. And I'm not saying we deny anybody anything, but if someone is really intent on wanting to vote, if they can't get to a place to register to vote, I bet you they have friends that'll help them do that. And if they don't have friends that help them do it, maybe they need to get a new set of friends. And then it came also with the voter ID. Let America Vote was real vocal in both these states about voter ID laws, that they disproportionately affect minorities. When in fact, and the latest one that they're touting or using as an example is Iowa's voter ID law. And I went into the voter ID law of Iowa, cut and paste what it actually says. If you don't have an ID, what the state will do for you to help you get that ID. I slapped it on their Facebook page as far as a comment and said, please tell me how this is disenfranchising people. Not a peep. Not a peep from these people, because it doesn't fit their narrative. Their narrative is to deceive and lie to the people, saying all these states that pass voter ID laws, they're out to get you. They don't want you to vote. They don't want these minorities. They don't want these old folks to vote. And that's just not the case. But people will not do their due diligence. And they use, like I said, these progressive groups use fear-mongering to make their point more valid, I guess. And if someone comes along with the truth, they've heard enough of these falsehoods and lies and these deceptions that when they hear the truth, they reject it out of hand. They're saying that can't be the case. That's not the case. And you know, the same ideology, the same thing happens in religion. So many folks in denominations, and I'm using Christianity right now, so many folks in denominations have heard false teachings for so long. When someone comes along and says, look, you can read and understand the New Testament for yourself and apply it to yourself without somebody telling you what to do, actually go to God's Word and discern it for yourself, that they don't think that that's the truth, because they've been taught that only the clergy can tell you what's in there. That only folks that went to seminary or ministry schools or whatever like that, they're the only ones that can pronounce the scriptures to you, and therefore they're smarter than me, so whatever they say goes. And again, the lie has been bought into to such an extent that when they hear the truth, it just doesn't work. And I use something here. I know if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see this, but I just flipped over to it on my YouTube channel. And this is by George Orwell. Truth is the new hate speech. During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. In other words, folks, when someone comes along and actually tells you the truth of the matter, there has been lied about so much, and so many lies have been told, perpetuating the lies and perpetuating the policy stance, whether it's religion or politics or whatever it is in life, that when the truth is told, everybody thinks that you're just a reactionary, you're a revolutionary, and you're outside the norm, when the fact of the matter is, if you do not live by truths and by facts, you're the one that's outside the norm. It's not normal to deceive folks. It's not normal to lie to folks. It's not normal to tell them debunked stances on issues. Bringing up these old narratives that were debunked years ago, especially about Reagan economics. Oh, that's just voodoo economics, trickle-down economics. That never works. It seemed kind of funny to me that from 1983 up until Bill Clinton and even beyond, well into his presidency, we had one of the biggest, longest economic booms in American history, and yet, that's just voodoo economics. It doesn't work. And people buy into that because, and again, and this is something, after I had my talk with my son, me and my son, we get together, sometimes we'll talk politics. We talk other things too, but sometimes we'll talk politics. And after Sunday, we got to talking about, I did not realize to what extent his ideas were on capitalism or the lack thereof. And his generation that he grew up with, he was taught that corporations, no matter who's incorporated, they're all thieves and liars. And he thinks when you talk about corporations, he only thinks of like the big multinational corporations, right? And he doesn't realize that they only make up a small percentage of all corporations incorporated in the United States. Almost everybody that has a business is incorporated, and a lot of that has to do with liability and limiting the liability to the corporation and not come after your personal assets. I was incorporated a couple different times. And when this show actually grows a little bit further, It's actually going to be, I don't know if the show's going to be incorporated or we're going to do an umbrella thing. That's immaterial, but eventually we're going to get some corporate protection for this program. But his generation and the generation before him or after him, I should say, and even some that are in my generation have been snookered. They've been lied to so much about all corporations are bad. If you give corporations a tax break, they're just going to spend it on themselves. They're not going to spend it on expansion of their business. They're not going to spend it on their employees to make themselves more competitive against another company. And that they're, you know, and this here, this is, let me look this up real quick because this is something that comes up too much. Monopolies, right? And I just want to, I don't want to look up the board game. I want to look up the, let me look this up with the, i.e. monopolies. Okay, the definition of a monopoly, right? A monopoly. And I had him look this up on his smartphone, and this is the exact definition he gave me because it's from dictionary.com. Exclusive control of a commodity or service in a particular market, or a control that makes possible the manipulation of prices. An exclusive privilege to carry on a business, traffic, or service granted by a government. The term exclusive there, it's the exclusive position or control or something. Let me just bring this up to my YouTube. My YouTube folks there, so they know what, you know, that I'm not, you know, blowing smoke up their kilts, as it were. Okay, exclusive control of commodity or service in a particular market, an exclusive privilege to carry on a business, traffic, or service granted by the government. Now, number two is actually the definition for crony capitalism, and that's what they're complaining about. They're complaining about crony capitalism. That's why I told him. I said that is crony capitalism. Okay, and there are more government-created monopolies in the country than people believe. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, electricity. PP&L here in PA is a government-created monopoly. Okay? Didn't used to be that way. It used to be that cities had their own generation plants and stuff like that years and years ago, and then they just started consolidating and consolidating and consolidating, looking at utilities as being a matter of national security, when what they did by consolidating these and making monopolies out of these, they actually created something that was easier to defeat. Okay, but you go on down there. Definition number three: the exclusive possession or control of something that is the subject of such control as commodity or service. Now, his generation and the ones that came after his. The youngest generations, they're being taught that if you have more than 75% of control of a market, you're essentially, and this is the term he used, you're essentially a monopoly. And I said, quit putting that modifying term in there. You are not a monopoly. A monopoly is exclusive, 100%. That means you control the whole market for a service or commodity. And I said, there has never been a free market monopoly in the history of the United States. None. They have all been government created. Matter of fact, if you go back in history, and we talked about this before, you go back in history and look at this. Standard Oil was the biggest boogeyman back around Teddy Roosevelt's time, and just a little bit before. They had like 90 to 92% of the market share. Oh, they're a monopoly. We got to pass these antitrust or anti-monopoly laws because he's got too much of the market share. By the time they got those market share, or that legislation through, competition had already pushed back Standard Oil's market share back down in the mid to low 70s%. But I thought they were a monopoly and there was nobody else in the oil business. Well, there was still 8% of the market that was still controlled by other oil companies. And what did? They did it better, faster, and cheaper than Standard Oil and took their market share away. Okay, so there's never been a monopoly outside of a government-created monopoly. And these are some of the deceits and lies that the millennials and my son's generation and Generation X and X, Y, and Z, whatever, that are still yet to be born. These are the lies. Unless we fight back against these lies, these are the lies and deceptions they're going to be told. And they're easily debunked. The problem is they seem to just have a life of their own. They're almost like a zombie. They just won't die. And why won't they die? The biggest reason is that the people that are listening to lies will not, they may trust them, but they won't verify them. They won't verify that they're being told the truth. They got too much other things on their plate. They just absolutely do. And in this day and age with communications as they are now, and this is not a plug for my show, but you know, if you would come to my show and look up some of these topics that we talk about on my show, they're hour and a half long shows. You'll get hopefully a better understanding. At least you'll get a different point of view that I have references to, that you can actually go and look these things up and say, you know what? And do that a few times. Do that a few times, and hopefully you come away, well, you know, this Dan Clements guy, he's pretty spot on what he's talking about, and he references what he's talking about. He actually puts proof out that what he's talking about is accurate. So in the future, if I hear something from the press or from, you know, the lamestream media or from some progressive Democrat or something like that out there, and I go to the Dan Clements show and hear an opposing opinion, I'm going to believe Dan over these guys because Dan's proved himself. These guys haven't. And that's why, honestly, folks, that's why these two, Murphy and Northam, that's why they wanted Virginia, because there's too many people out there willing to believe the lie, because it was easier for them to believe the lie instead of going and trying to find the truth. And that's exactly what's happening in politics today. We talked about Carl Lentz yesterday in Hillsong Church in New York City, and how he's a false teacher and spreading lies of his own. So like I said, it amazes me how many people are just not willing to go out and do the work that they need to do to get everything going for them. All right, today's show is being brought to you by GearXS.com. They're an affiliate marketer partner of mine. And if you go over to DanClementsShow.com and click on the GearXS widget, it'll take you over to their website. And folks, right now, they have a 5-piece heavy-duty grinder set for like salt, pepper, spices and stuff like that for $4.99. And they have a gutter guard mesh screen filters for $7.99. Now, you can buy these here if you want and put them on your gutters. And I'm telling you what, and this is not an endorsement for Leaf Guard, but that's what's going up on my house is Leaf Guard. And after we get them installed on the house and I see how they do, I'm going to find out if I can be a promoter for them on the show. They have a Goodyear Super Dry Cameos ball. They have all sorts of deals, folks. All sorts of deals. 30-piece button cell batteries for $4.99. Now, come on. You can't beat those. You can't beat the prices, and you can't beat the quality of them. And again, I bought a window cleaner off of them for my vehicles for the inside. It has a head and it's micro mesh and everything. I got it in a few days, and I went out to the car and put just a little bit of Windex on it to make it wet. And I'm telling you what, folks, it literally made the inside of the window shine. And I didn't have that dusty buildup from your defrosters and stuff like that on the windshield anymore. And it was so easy to clean. It was like falling off the log, easy to clean. So if you like what you hear on the Dan Clements Show and you want to help support the show, please go to DanClementsShow.com and actually click on my affiliate marketers, but especially today, GearXS.com. Go over and see what their daily specials are, and in doing so, you'll be helping support the Dan Clements Show. Now, this daily Bible reading comes by way of my buddy Dave. He left a comment on yesterday's show that I thought was very insightful. And the Bible reading he gave me was actually Acts chapter 3, verses 26, but I'm going to add verse 25 onto that because it's my prerogative to do so. You are sons of the prophets and of the covenant which God made with our fathers, saying to Abraham, in your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed. To you first, God, having raised up his servant Jesus, sent him to bless you in turning away every one of you from your iniquities. One of the reasons, and this is the main reason that we preach the gospel and Jesus Christ and him crucified, is to hopefully help people turn away from their iniquities. But if you're like Carl Lentz at Hillsong, you're not giving them, you're not preaching them the gospel. You're not helping people turn away from their iniquities. Matter of fact, he's allowing people and helping people to stay comfortable in their iniquities. And folks, the Bible says that in 2 Peter and in Jude, especially 2 Peter and elsewhere, these guys, these false teachers like this are going to be doubly judged. And the double judgment comes in this. They're going to be judged for themselves because they aren't right with God. And the second judgment is because they led so many people astray. That's the double judgment that teachers labor under. A good gospel teacher labors under, and they understand that. And it's always in the back of their mind to try to make sure that what they're preaching is accurate according to the scriptures, and they do not take from that or go beyond it. Quote mail today comes from Lanny Henninger. So what to do? Two things, it seems to me, at least two. Use up each day. Fill it overflowing with good. Deliberately enjoy it. 2, begin now. Mend a fractured friendship. Mail an overdue letter. Repair a broken heart. Lay aside a grievance. Act on a noble impulse. As we all know, the night cometh. And what he means by that, the night cometh, there's going to be a day when Jesus Christ comes back, and we're not going to be able to do this anymore. So we need to seize the day. Okay? And I'm not going to try to do the Latin because I'm not sure if I'm going to say the right one. So, you know, it's, but it seize the day. And that's what we have to do in God. Today's short Bible lesson comes from G.E. Watkins over at gewatkins.net. And this goes right along with what we're saying yesterday and today about deceptions, about false teachings, whether you're talking political or whether you're talking religion. It's hold fast the form of sound words. Hold fast the form of sound words. And this is from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 13. Hold fast the form of sound words which thou hast heard of me in faith and love, which is in Christ Jesus. So we need to hold fast. The American Standard Version says hold the pattern of sound words. The English Standard Version, follow the pattern of sound words. New American Standard, retain the standard of sound words. New King James, hold fast the pattern of sound words. And the NRS, and I'm not sure which one that is, hold to the standard of sound teaching. We have the Bible. We have the New Testament. That's the sound teaching. Whatever we hear, we need to compare it to what the Bible says. And in doing that, we will hold fast the form of sound words. And that's what's not happening in the religious world today with all these denominations out there. They're not holding fast to this form of sound words, as Paul's telling Timothy. And especially in politics, we have too many people out there that are not holding fast to these sound words, as it were. All right. Let me see if I got everything set up over here. Okay, real quick here. We're going to deal with Phil Murray first. He's the governor-elect of New Jersey. Okay, and let me... Now, Phil Murray, this is Wikipedia. This is, as you know, Wikipedia is kind of fluent as far as everything goes. Philip Dunton Murphy, born August 16, 1957, is an American financier, diplomat, and politician who is the governor-elect of New Jersey. He was the Democrat Party nominee for governor of New Jersey in 2017 gubernatorial election. While planning to run for governor, Murray launched New Way for New Jersey as a liberal organization intended to increase his political visibility in the state. Murphy was the United States ambassador to Germany from 2009 to 2013, during which time he dealt with fallout from the United States diplomatic cable leaks matter. And that's, if you remember, that's where all this spying that was going on, this unconstitutional spying that was going on by the Obama administration, well, they were actually spying unlawfully, unconstitutionally on our allies like Germany and Merkel in Germany. And I don't think that was ever addressed by anybody. But anyway, let's see. He served as finance chairman for the Democrat National Committee in the mid to late 2000s under Howard Dean. Prior to that, Murphy had a 23-year career at Goldman Sachs, during which he held several high-level positions and accumulated considerable wealth before retiring from there in 2006. He's additionally involved in many civic organizations and philanthropic pursuits. Now, real quick here, Goldman Sachs. Where have we heard that name before? They were part of the meltdown in 2008. Now, he retired in 2006. But he can't say, and folks, I know there's people out there that are going to argue with me, he cannot say that his hands were clean in all this, because the height of these asset swap, these mortgage swaps, was 2006. Even before they were coming into prominence by 2006. So you can't tell me he didn't know about them. You can't tell me he didn't have his hands in them. So here they and this is the funny part, folks. This is the real funny part. We have these social democrats that elected this guy, okay? And yet he was part of the crony capitalism that is the problem here in the United States. Now, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you set aside and compromise your principles to elect a guy that actually worked in a business that you stand opposed to. I don't know what kind of moral gymnastics or ethical gymnastics you got to go through to set aside your principles and compromise them to vote for a guy like this and propel him to the governorship of New Jersey. I'm just saying. I just wanted to go over that because this is important. This is important. Matter of fact, if you go back and look at his time as the Democratic National Committee treasurer, or finance chairman for the DNC, since the mid to late 2000s, which would coincide with his time there at Goldman Sachs, would it not? The DNC was having some issues on fundraising, and they were getting a lot of questionable money from a lot of questionable people. Now, let's go over to my website here. This is the Phil Murphy, Democrat for governor. Okay, now he's governor-elect of New Jersey. And there's some issues we need to go over with real quick here on his platform. And these are very progressive, social democratic, social justice type issues that he's going for. Now, building a green economy and protecting our environment. We had months ago on the program, we talked about this, we looked into this. It cost, we're talking about kilowatt hours, okay? The cost of a kilowatt hour produced by green energy is 3 to 4 times more than if it was by coal, oil, or gas. Simply because of the human labor that is involved in bringing green energy to the grid. And this is what Governor-elect Murphy wants to do. Our leaders have sold out our environment to special interests. We must protect our open state and take the lead on climate change to restore New Jersey as a leader in the green economy. Let me stop the reading there. New Jersey's economy is not the best in the nation as it is. They have some of the highest real estate taxes in the country, not the, but some of the highest. And as far as a business-friendly state, they're not. Even under Chris Christie, which I never liked that guy. He was an opportunist at best, and a moderate at best as far as a Republican, and a rhino at worst, a Republican in name only. Okay, because there was a lot. He was all over the map. And he was one of these guys that was he would be more philosophically aligned with independents and moderates than he would conservatives or anything. Now, listen to this. Climate change. Here we go. Phil will immediately restore New Jersey's place in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, the RGGI. Governor Christie's decision to pull out not only slowed progress on lowering emissions, but it also cost New Jerseyans, now get this, folks, get this, it cost New Jerseyans tens of millions of dollars that should have been used to further reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increase energy efficiency, and improve air quality in urban communities. So it's not, and folks, you got to read these carefully. Honestly, it's not about the environment. Climate change never was about the environment. Climate change has always been about the redistribution of wealth. When it comes down to the brass tacks of the matter, where the rubber meets the road, it's just unget-aroundable, folks. It talks about how they've lost tens of millions of dollars. Honestly, folks, New Jersey and the people that put this man up in the governor's mansion, they're going to live to regret this. Their state is going to go into an economic tailspin almost like California because of what they've done. I don't know why people can't look at California and see how bad California has been fiscally with all their green energy and environmental regulations that they've piled onto the state, and how businesses and people have been moving out of that state in droves. My buddy Ken, a friend from way back in the day when I started my podcast on Blog Talk Radio and was part of the conservative radio network, CRN, that was started on Blog Talk Radio. And he was a part of that, and we used to listen to each other's shows. And he moved out of there just a couple months ago. A couple months he's been in Texas now. Said he's found a job. His wife's found a job. They put a bid on a house to move into a house just a couple months after getting into Texas, not knowing what they were going to do, just knowing they had to get out of Texas. So Jersey's going to go right the same way. And make no mistake about it, folks, it is not about the environment with these progressives. It is about the money. They are some of the most greedy people on the planet. And yet when they badmouth actual corporations, when they badmouth free market capitalism, it just to me it shows their stripes even more, that they're the ones being greedy. Okay? Phil understands that we need to generate clean energy here in New Jersey and not import polluting electricity from neighboring states while exporting jobs. This is why we will increase the amount of electricity utilities are required to purchase from local wind and solar sources. Good luck on your energy bill, New Jerseyans. That's going to skyrocket on you, because we have that in Pennsylvania. I've stopped reading here. We have that in Pennsylvania where PP&L has a monopoly on the transmission lines, but I can go out and buy my electricity from other sources. And I looked into buying from a source that's strictly wind farms or solar panels or a combination of both, and the cost of that electricity was a third to half more than the stuff that I could get from natural gas, oil, or coal. And so good luck. Out of all the expenses New Jerseyans have, this is going to hurt the poor and the middle class more than anything else, by him restricting these and wanting to require the utilities in the state to do this. Okay? He will also make sure New Jersey develops its enormous offshore wind opportunities, which will not only reduce our carbon footprint, but has the potential to create good new jobs in New Jersey. Phil will also develop a plan for New Jersey to eventually reach 100% carbon-free electricity. Although through these efforts, New Jersey will regain its place as a national energy leader, which will both protect our environment and grow our economy. No, it won't. Facts are against you, sir. Facts are against anybody that voted for this nonsense. Because again, the cost of a kilowatt hour with green, clean energy is 2, 3, sometimes 4 times more than the other. Can your citizens, especially the middle class and the lower income folks, can they afford that increase in their electrical bills? And honestly, these offshore, what he was talking about, enormous offshore wind opportunities. Yeah, good luck with that. The northern hemisphere in the wintertime, those things tend to freeze up. Just go do some, look on YouTube for wind turbine failures, wintertime failures, actually. If you think the economic outlook for New Jersey was bad with Chris Christie, just wait, folks. Just wait. Phil also knows that transportation is by far the largest source of climate pollution in the state. This is one reason why he believes it is paramount that the mismanagement of the New Jersey Transit be corrected immediately. Phil will work to restore the safety and reliability of the country's best statewide transit system. He also believes More needs to be done to make sure that electric vehicles are priority and that all travelers, especially commuters, have easy, affordable access to electric vehicle charging stations. Again, who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for this? And matter of fact, in the tax reform bill, they're doing away with subsidies for green energy. And they're doing away with a lot of subsidies for for other energies too. They're doing, in this tax reform bill, is doing away with a lot of these loopholes and these subsidies. And Elon Musk, everybody looks at him as the savior of the world. He is one of the biggest rent seekers on the planet when it comes to getting tax dollars out of governments. Multiple billions of dollars of American tax benefits, subsidies and breaks and stuff like that go to Elon Musk. If he had to compete on the open market, he couldn't do it. Without the subsidies he gets from America and other countries, he could not do what he's doing. At best, he's just a rent seeker. And again, I'm telling you that goodbye, New Jersey economy. Goodbye. All you got to do is look to the left coast and see California. So long, been good to know you. And this other point here, that sometimes I don't think these folks realize the contradictions they put out. Protecting the Jersey Shore. Phil understands that enjoying the shore is a birthright for all New Jerseyans. Really? Enjoying a natural resource is a birthright? There's probably a lot more people that come out of state to actually go to these shores. We have a lot of friends that go down the Jersey Shore. I will never take my family down to the Jersey Shore because I've been there. And you talk about some of the filthiest water you've ever seen. You know, because I've been to the Caribbean by, courtesy of Uncle Sam in the Navy. And I'll never go into water that's that brown and that gray again. I'd like to go to the beaches down in North Carolina, but even down there, the waters are not clean, not like they are in the Caribbean. But protecting the birthright of all New Jerseyans. Now tell me how you're going to do that and put these eyesores of wind farms out in the ocean that will be seen from the shore. Tell me how you're going to protect the Jersey Shore and this, these folks enjoying it when they're going to sit there and all they're going to see is these wind farms out there because all you want to make it your state into a green state. There's 100% carbonless energy. Honestly, I don't think these people actually looked at these things and actually put two and two together. Then he goes on and talks about preserving open space. Voter registration. You've heard me on the show. This is a big thing with me. Some of his things is making voter registration easier through automatic voter registration. 5 states have automatic voter registrations to their motor vehicle commissions. This means that residents are automatically registered to vote when they visit the motor vehicle commission, unless the DMV for normal folks, unless they opt out. Governor Christie vetoed the law that would make Jersey the 6th such empowering state. Again, my question is, should citizenship be that easy? Should citizenship, let me get that down off of there, something keeps popping up there. Should you not have to work a little harder at that? Now, I'm not totally against registering at the motor vehicle, but to automatically do it and you have to opt out, I don't think that's the way to do it. I think they should ask you, do you want to be registered or not? It should not be automatic. I think it's okay to register when you get your driver's license. Here in Pennsylvania, when you get your driver's license renewed, they ask you, do you want to be registered? I've always told them that I've been registered. I don't need to be registered again. And it should not be automatic. They should be made to ask, but it should not be automatic. Online voter registration. Not in a million years. Heck no. There's no reason why a resident should be able to bank and shop online, but not register to vote. 38 states have already moved towards online voter registration in some form. New Jersey should follow suit. No, sorry. Too easily to be hacked. Too easy to be hacked. And what's the guarantee that the voter register is going to check to make sure you're the person that's actually doing the registering? Again, I think this has to be done in person. At the DMV, it's in person. if you're going to register at the clerk of courts, should be in person. And same day voter registration, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? If you didn't register to vote before the primary season and vote in the primaries, why on earth should you be able to just go on the same day and register to vote and then vote? It's lazy citizenship, folks. These folks are I'm sorry, they're being lazy. They're being lazy. Allowing early voting, I have mixed feelings about that. I would say no unless it's absentee ballot. A lot of people don't understand the absentee ballot rules. When I was a truck driver, I voted for years on absentee ballot, and people were like, but you're a truck driver. What do you mean absentee ballot? My work kept me away from the polls. I was an over-the-road driver. Kept me away from the polls. So I had every right to vote, but I couldn't vote on the day the voting took place. So it was absentee ballot. I agree with absentee ballot, but I do not agree with this. Then the other one's allowing 17-year-olds to vote in primaries if they will be 18 by election day. Where are we going to push this back? You know, why can't we have cutoffs for schools, age cutoffs at schools? 18 vote, period. Boom, done. And even then, I even think sometimes 18-year-olds are not mature enough to vote. I'm sorry. I'm not saying all of them, but a vast majority of them I don't think are smart enough or right enough in the head or got enough experience or wisdom to actually vote at 18. 21's even a low limit, you know, for wisdom and maturity to be able to vote and know what you're voting for, not being kowtowed by deceptions and lies and just outright falsehoods to get you to vote the way somebody else wants you to vote, like we're going to give you free tuition. Nothing's free. Someone always pays for it, just they're not paying for it. And they expect everybody else to pay for their education and everything else. Their cell phones under, you know, Obama, you know, giving away cell phones. Another one, getting tough on gun violence. Sign common sense legislation that Christie vetoed. Phil Murphy would start by signing every piece of gun violence prevention legislation that Governor Christie has vetoed. These bills would have enacted bipartisan and sensible solutions such as keeping guns out of the hands of gang members and domestic abusers. Folks, these laws would have kept lawbreakers, these gang members, from getting guns. Oh, we have to sign them. Go ask Chicago and see how that's working for them. The city with the most strictest gun control in the country cannot keep handguns or even any type of guns out of criminals' hands, gang members included. And so is Bill Murphy. Oh, we got to sign this. Made it sound good, but he didn't give you the truth of the matter. Again, deception, falsehoods, lying. Mandate gun safety training. No one should be able to purchase a firearm without first attending a gun safety training course. I disagree. I don't think it should be mandated. I think it's a good idea that people get trained if they're not trained. My wife, my son was helping train her when he took her to the gun range, showed her how to use a gun safely and stuff like that. I think to me, that's common sense. If you're going to own a gun, get some safety training. Why does it have to be mandated by the government? Promote smart gun technology? No. Because it makes, and this is the reason why they support this, folks. Smart gun technology doesn't really work. It's not been developed enough, and it adds tremendously to the cost of a firearm. And this is their goal. They want to make firearms so unaffordable that nobody's going to own them. If they can't regulate them out of existence, they're going to make them so expensive that people will not be able to buy them. Keep guns out of the hands of those suffering with mental illness. I agree with that. And I think people need to sit down and talk about this, especially mental health eggheads out there. And that's not a derogatory statement. These intellectuals that are in the mental health industry, to figure out a way that we can report these mental illnesses so they're not able to pass a background check. Now, with the Sutherland spring shooter, he was in a mental health program while he was in the Air Force, and was dishonorably discharged because of domestic violence and animal cruelty. And the Air Force came out this morning and said, One American News Network was reporting this, that they messed up not making sure that information got on the Federal Register, especially about the domestic abuse and animal cruelty. They messed up. It didn't get on the Federal Registry. Now, again, my question is, what I asked yesterday is, he was able to buy the guns, but he was denied a carry conceal permit. So someone had to know something. But anyway, that's a different story there. Tax gun sales to prevent violence. All gun sales should be subject to a tax that will fund law enforcement, drug treatment centers, and mental health issues or services. When have they ever taxed something, state, local, or federal, that 100% of that money went to what it was intended for? It may start out as that, but if there's another more pressing need in the state, they're going to funnel that money to wherever they want. California's a perfect example out there. The Oroville Dam, they had the money, and the money was coming in for the repairs of that dam, but Governor Brown sidetracked that into immigration. So then they didn't have the money to keep up the maintenance on the dam, and what did they get? They almost killed a bunch of people because of that. Taxing gun sales to prevent violence. Again, it's not a gun thing. It's a heart, mind, and soul thing, folks. It really is. Strengthen regulations on gun transfers. As far as I know, and I've done some research on this, private party transfers aren't the problem. Matter of fact, they keep talking about this gun show loophole that isn't there. If I buy a gun out of state off of a website, I have to have it sent to, they won't send it straight to me. I have to send it to a local gun dealer that accepts and will process the federal firearms, dealer license they have. They do the background check. I pay for that there. I pay for a handling fee before I get my weapon. But strengthen gun transfers. Bill Murray would make it a crime to sell guns without conducting a mandatory background check and would require individuals to register their firearms kept in the state. What countries in recent memories have passed gun confiscation laws and turned totally violent towards their citizens? Cuba would be one of them. Venezuela would be another one of them. Tell me how that's going to work out for you to register all the firearms kept in the state. That would be just a mechanism for the state to come and confiscate your guns. New Jerseyans should be fighting against this. Yet this is what this guy stands for. This is what they elected out there in New Jersey. We're not going to be able to get to Northam today, but we will pick up on this tomorrow in Northam. I want to finish a couple more things down here. Work with neighboring states to promote gun violence prevention. An estimated 80% of guns involved in crimes in New Jersey come from out of state, as Governor Phil Murphy will engage partners in neighboring states to find common ground on gun violence prevention efforts. Again, folks, criminals do not follow laws. If someone's going to commit a crime in your state and they're going to and they can't find a gun in your state, guess what? They're going to go to another state where it's easier to get a gun and come back and commit that violence. Criminals have never followed laws, i.e., henceforth, the term criminal. They break the law. They're lawbreakers. They break the law. There's no law that you're going to put on the book. Matter of fact, Senator Flake, I did a whole show on him. Senator Flake's flaked out when he talked about his resignation and trying to beat the drums against President Donald Trump. Well, he came out and said, well, we need to, there was a couple things he said that we need to enact these laws. And here, these laws are already on the books. And Governor Abbott of Texas was telling everybody, we don't need new laws. We just need to enforce the laws that we have. But see, if we just enforce the laws that we have, then politicians can't sit there and, look at me, I passed this legislation, I'm a good guy, you need to continue to vote for me. This virtue signaling that they do by passing laws that are already on the books. If we just enforce the laws that we have, the Air Force, honestly, The Air Force should stand to be, even if it's in civil court, be held accountable for not putting this guy, the Southern Springs church shooter, on the Federal Registry to ban him from getting firearms. Now, I'm not saying that would have stopped him, but folks, I mean, that was a pretty big oversight by the United States Air Force. They need to be held accountable for that, even in civil court, with damages to the families who lost loved ones or who got injured. Direct the Attorney General to vigorously defend our gun laws. Well, if you're going to make new gun laws, again, he says in here, Governor Christie allowed the Attorney General's office to relax enforcement of our gun safety laws, including laws that prohibit illegally transporting guns into New Jersey from out of state. Again, no law is going to stop illegal guns from coming into your state. It's not going to happen. Now, you can try to enforce that, but in order to enforce that, to keep every gun out of your state, you're going to have to inspect every single vehicle coming into your state. You're going to have to set up inspections at every state line crossing, and there's quite a few of them going in New Jersey, even though most of them you have to go across the river someplace or some other. Not all of them, but some of them. And do you know how much that's going to slow traffic down? I know, we're going to inconvenience some folks. We're going to inconvenience some folks, and yet we're going to save some lives. What are you going to do? You want to save lives? You want to inconvenience folks? I was a truck driver, folks. I made my living driving in and out of New Jersey. Matter of fact, the company I drove for the most, Metropolitan Trucking, their headquarters used to be out of Paterson, New Jersey. I know of what I talk about New Jersey traffic. There's no way that they can physically check every vehicle coming into New Jersey for guns. It can't happen. It would shut down the state completely because of workers living outside the state driving into work every day. They just can't do it. Criminals are not going to follow the law. It makes no sense that people would buy into this deception of Mr. Murray, of Phil Murray. And these are just some of the planks that we're talking about here. Wait till tomorrow, and we're going to get into this tomorrow with Ralph Northam, the governor-elect of Virginia. And he's just as bad as, if not worse, than New Jersey. And the one thing I want to leave you with on this, as we start to come to the end of the show, is, and this is my prediction, because there has been signs of this, if you will look for them. The social justice, the social democrats, the social justice tyrants in America, these two are not going to go far enough in those states. They're just not. They are going to fall short because they'll literally be stopped by logistics, common sense, logic, whatever. A lot of their platforms are not economically feasible to put into place. And what's going to happen is they're going to tick off the far left base of their party, of the Democrat Party, that helped get them elected. And I'm talking about far left groups like Let America Vote, Common Cause, Indivisible Guide. These guys are far left. And they're not going to go far enough for these guys. They really aren't. Because there are some limitations to what they can do as governor. And it doesn't matter who's at fault. They promised this. This is what their platform was. If they don't deliver on this platform, their own is going to eat them. Their own is literally going to politically eat them alive. And so, do I believe that what's happening in the United States today, as far as with the left and everything, and specifically what's happening in Virginia and New Jersey, do I believe that's going to be the end of the President Trump presidency? As I said in the beginning of the show, no, because the Republicans didn't allow President Trump to campaign for him. I bet you if Gillespie and the other, and I'll find out his name tomorrow when I start talking about the Republican that lost in Virginia, I'll find out the Republican's name in New Jersey, and honestly I don't care, but you're going to find out that if President Trump would have campaigned for them, they'd have probably won their states. They really would have, because that's how much influence that President Trump has on electoral politics, folks. So time will tell, but my prediction is they're going to be ate up by their own base because they're not going to go far enough. It's been the Dan Clements Show. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior. Remember, if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. Have a great rest of the day, and God bless. And remember, if you like the show, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to it and hit the bell next to it for notifications when I have a new episode up. And please, if you like what you're hearing on the show here, go to my Patreon page, or you can support me with a PayPal donation, whatever it is. And I thank you for whatever you do to help me promote the show. And again, we'll see you tomorrow at noon, and God bless.